us in a word of prayer.
Pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you, dear Lord. We thank you for giving us another day with the sunshine and the air that we breathe. Dear Lord, we thank you for granting us safe passage here tonight, dear Lord, and we ask you to help us and guide us, dear Lord, as we come together as a council to do things that we do for our people, dear Lord, that we keep you in the midst of everything that we do. Dear Lord, we ask you to remember those that are sick, afflicted this evening, dear Lord. Help them and guide them. And to the ones that's lost a loved one, dear Lord, we ask you to comfort them and let them know that you're still with them, dear Lord. Dear Lord, no matter what valley we get in, we know that you're there with us at all the time. Dear Lord, we just ask you to continue to be with us tonight. Help us and guide us. For we ask these whole things in your name we do pray. Amen.
And as you remain standing, we'll ask Councilman Woodell if he would lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Ask Councilman McNeil if he would to lead us in the preamble of our tribal constitution.
In accordance with the inherent power of self-government of the Columbia Tribe of North Carolina,
The tribe adopts this constitution for the purposes of establishing tribal government structure, preserving for all time the Lumbee way of life and community,
promoting the
educational, cultural, social, and economic well-being of the Lumbee people,
and
securing justice and freedom for the Lumbee people. Thank you. Madam Secretary, if you would do a roll call.
Carvecus Barfield. Sharon Hunt. James B. Hunt.
Here.
Ted Woodell.
Here.
Wendy Moore Graham here. Jared Lowry. Larry Chavis.
Here.
Douglas Locklear. Reginald Oxendine.
Here.
Jan Lowry. Alvin Mercer. Corbin Eddings.
Here.
Dewey McNeil.
Here.
Marshall Locklear. Here. Frank Cooper.
Here.
Annie Taylor. Ricky Burnett.
Here.
Terry Hunt.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. At this time, I will read our ethics statement. In accordance with the Ethics and Conflict of Interest Ordinance 2010-0312-01, it is the duty of every council member to avoid both conflicts of interest and the appearance of a conflict of interest with regards to matters before the council today. Does any council member have a known conflict of interest on any perceived conflicts of interest with respect to any matters coming before the council today? If so, please refrain from participation in those particular deliberations during the meeting. Thank you. This time,
I'd like to excuse Miss Jenny McFarland.
we have, and help me out, I believe on the decorum when we put it before, there's no more excusing. I mean, the only thing was death, I believe it was.
Or sick.
Yeah, or sickness. Is that right? Before we do the review and approval of the agenda, I would recognize our chairman, Mr. Harvey, being present with us, and also to recognize our 2013 senior Miss Lumbee, Miss Mabel. Good to have you here with us. Is there any other prior council members or any present? I don't see any. So at this time, I would ask for approval to review and approval of our agenda for tonight.
Mr. Speaker, I make a motion to approve the agenda.
All in favor of that, let know by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. This time to review and approve of the April Tribal Council minutes and actions that were taken.
I make a motion to approve, Mr. Speaker.
Have a motion, need a second? Been moved in second. Any question? All in favor of that, let it known by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. This time we will review and approve of the April special called minutes and actions.
I make a motion to approve special call minutes and actions, Mr. Speaker.
Second.
Moved in second. Any question? Hearing none. All in favor, let it known by saying aye. All opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. At this time, we have our community comments. I have Dr. Porter at this time.
Thank you. Just have a few updates I'd like to share with you, and first of which is the Lumbee Aquatic Center update. We will kick off the season Memorial Day, which is obviously May 27th, Monday, May 27th. The pool will open at 10 a.m. and close at 7 p.m. The regular seasonal hours we'll have posted for you, but they are Tuesday through Friday, 2 to 7 p.m., Saturday from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m., and Sunday from 1 p.m. to 6 p.m. Next, I want to share with you our recognition of our veterans on Memorial Day. We will remember and honor persons who have died while serving in the armed forces on Memorial Day at the Lumbee Tribe Cultural Center at 10 a.m. Caleb Malcolm will be our guest speaker for that event. I'd like to provide you an update for the Boys and Girls Club. We've talked about holding our first fundraiser, the gala, and it's called the Champion of Youth Gala. The event will be held at the Pembroke Boys and Girls Club on June 21st, and I've included a copy of this in your packet, at 6 p.m. The tickets are $100 a person. By contributing to this event, you can help shape a better tomorrow today by supporting the Lumbee Tribe Boys and Girls Club, of which are 7. The mission of the club is to enrich the quality of life for children ages 6 through 18 through education, recreation, health, arts, character development, and culture. In order to provide the much-needed services year after year, the Boys and Girls Clubs of the tribe relies on both grants and community support to serve more than 600 children at the 7 clubs. And then finally, I'd like to share with you additional information about the opioid grant. And as you know, our counties are experiencing an opioid epidemic in alarming numbers of overdoses, resulting in deaths each week. And this week is no different. We've had a number of deaths this week. The Lumbee Tribe has received a $1.5 million grant from the Department of Health and Human Services on February 21st. We now have the capacity to provide services to 63 Lumbee tribal members within the 4-county tribal service area per year over a 3-year period. So that's 63 per year. Services began April the 22nd, and to date we've served 19 tribal members that are on their way to recovery. Our schedule of services include support group sessions, individual group counseling, and medication treatment. The program goal is to implement treatments to help people with substance use disorders achieve and maintain a meaningful and sustained recovery with lifetime outcomes. Our primary partner for the program is Lumberton Treatment Center. Erica Locklear is our program manager, and she can be reached at the Veterans Facility at 204 West 3rd Street, and her number is area code 910-522-5055. Thank you.
Dr. Porter. At this time, the chair will recognize Chairman Harvey Godwin.
Good evening, Mr. Speaker, committee chairs, councilmen, councilwomen, Lumbee people, partners, and friends. As of late, the Lumbee Tribal Council has done some great work, some of the greatest work I've seen in quite some time during my tenure, and I want to commend you on that. And recently, at a special call meeting, you recognized the Catawba Indian Nation for their inherent sovereignty, and I want to commend you for doing that. And with partners, it's a mutual relationship, and we received a letter from Chairman Chief Harris from the Catawba Nation. I'd like to read it to you. The purpose of this letter is to express the full support of the Catawba Indian Nation for House Bill 1964 and Senate Bill 1368, bills to provide for the full federal recognition of the Lumbee tribe. Due to our own sad history of termination and the long fight for restoration of our federal recognition, the Catawba people understand the critical importance of federal recognition and the limitations imposed on a tribal nation who is denied such recognition. The Lumbee people have long fought for full federal recognition and the same rights and privileges afforded to all federally recognized tribes, including the inherent sovereignty right to determine its own destiny. It is long past time for the federal government to grant full federal recognition to the Lumbee tribe. The Lumbee tribe of North Carolina is a friend, relative, and neighbor of the Catawba Indian Nation, and we fully support the full federal recognition of the Lumbee tribe. Respectfully, Bill Harris, Chief of the Catawba Indian Nation. And along with that, the Lumbee tribe, the Catawba Council voted for a resolution, and they did the same as all the members of that committee and signed the resolution on our behalf. Also in North Carolina legislature, to clarify state recognition for the Lumbee Indians passed the North Carolina Senate Bill 218 last week, and we're waiting for its passage in the House this week. In the federal government, as to this letter, Congressman G.K. Butterfield and Congressman Richard Hudson, bipartisan co-signers for House Bill 1964 for full federal recognition of the Lumbee Indians. Also, the Senator Richard Burr last week introduced Senate Bill 1368 for full federal recognition for the Lumbee people. I've been here for a long time, and as we all have, and I feel more confident. My spirit is most high tonight with the possibility of us to achieve something we've been trying to achieve for a long time. I feel confident we're going to make great strides towards that endeavor. And I would encourage you all, representing each of your districts, we're 35,000 enrolled members, to ask our people to text, tweet, Instagram, email, and call every elected official, every elected congressman in North Carolina and in Washington, D.C. to get on board and last and for all, fully recognize the Lumbee tribe. Sometimes we underestimate our power, and we have a tremendous voting bloc for this election coming up in 2020. And we have a great opportunity to not only shape full federal recognition, but to shape our world as well. So let the mighty Lumbee voice be heard, and let's have our people to call. We don't have money for lobbyists, but we do have a voice, and we can electronically get that message across. God bless you, and thank you for the good work you've been doing.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. At this time, we'll go to our committee reports. Chair would recognize at this time Dr. Oxendine from the Constitution Ordinance Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On the agenda for Constitution Ordinance, you see listed there CLLO 2010-0121-01, an act to provide tribal enrollment, Amendment Number 2. First, before I present the amendment, I want to thank the committee members, the council, and administrative staff, tribal enrollment staff, Lumbee Tribe Administration for their input and hard work helping put this amendment together. As you recall, our rolls have been closed for approximately a year and a half. You think about that journey. The journey is being to get to a point, a destination where we're at tonight, to be able to open the rolls once again where folks can enroll and not be limited as members of the Lumbee Tribe of North Carolina. Over this year and a half, we've listened to scholars, Dr. Wilkins, Dr. Williams. We've listened to the public, our tribal members, in community meetings at the powwow. Also, we've had an online survey that we received feedback as well. We've looked at other tribes' enrollment ordinances and presented that to the committee, see how they're doing it. We've had meetings in our committees. We've had feedback from our communities. We've had feedback from our community meetings. We've had feedback from our own staff, our tribal enrollment staff, and our chairman, Harvey Godwin. So it is my pleasure tonight to be able to present this to the full council, an act to provide tribal enrollment, Amendment Number 2. It says, whereas the Lumbee Tribe of North Carolina is recognized as the American Indian tribe of the state of North Carolina, subject to the Constitution of Lumbee Tribe of North Carolina and its inherent powers of self-government. Whereas Article 7, Section 1 of the Lumbee Tribal Constitution delegates all legislative authority to the Tribal Council of the Lumbee Tribe of North Carolina. Therefore, it be enacted by the Tribal Council of the Lumbee Tribe of North Carolina as this ordinance shall be cited as an act for tribal enrollment. Just a couple sections I'd like to highlight. On page 2, section 2, one change we did make on the committee is persons that were rejected, their applications were rejected or terminated, would be changed from 3-year waiting period to a one-year waiting period. We thought that was better for the membership. Also, section 4, number D. Per the Supreme Court's recommendation, we included that the tribal membership rolls will close 30 calendar days prior to any special or regular election, and will reopen 30 calendar days after the certification of any special or regular election. On page 4, section 6, B1, we updated that members who are 55 years or older are encouraged to periodically update their membership file, but are not required to do so, provided they are holding an active and updated membership at the age of 55. So they'll keep our older members, our senior members, from having to update their membership every 7 years. Page 5 of 9, tribal contact, section 7. We define tribal contact as historical or present-day contact, and we broke that down in section B there, where it says the self-identification as a Lumbee prior to enrollment is part of that historical contact. Attendance at a public school that was considered to be a Lumbee Indian school prior to desegregation. Or on page 6, section 2, membership current or past in a church. And we do have a typo right there, in, just one in, a church that was historically known as a Lumbee Indian church. C, present-day contact, members seeking to prove contact through present-day contact shall provide proof of the following: self-identification as a Lumbee prior to enrollment. Applicant maintains a physical presence within the tribal territory, and those members are considered to meet the physical presence requirement if they have been physically present within the tribal territory at least one time in the last 7 years. Section D there, all applicants for new enrollment over the age of 18 shall attend a Lumbee history culture class offered by the Lumbee tribe. Upon completion, applicants shall receive a certificate of completion signed by a representative of the Lumbee tribe. This does away with the historical test that many members, and we received feedback from that were dissatisfied with that hurdle or that hoop that they had to jump through to get their enrollment card. Section 2, a copy of the certificate of completion shall be presented to the enrollment office and placed in the member's enrollment file. We removed the whole section that talked about blood quantum. We thought that was detrimental to our people and to our tribe, requiring a blood quantum. So you see the changes that were made, and I thank the council for them attending the meetings and providing feedback. And I'm proud to present this tribal enrollment ordinance amendment to the council.
You've heard the report from Dr. Oxendine. Coming from committee, it requires no second. Is there any question?
I have a question. Okay, I'm looking at page 5, section 7. I'm assuming that you're trying to give somewhat of a definition of present day or historical contact. And I'm finding here that it has some redundancy in it. That needs to be redone. And I do question the act of self-identification as Lumbee. Where is the quantifying or qualifying component of that? I mean, somebody else besides me needs to know I'm Lumbee. Does your community have input or what? And unfortunately, there were 4 of us that were unable to be at the Constitution Committee meeting because we were on tribal business. So I do have some questions, and I have questions regarding, I know we're talking about a history test or a history class, but there has not been any indicator on the components of that history. I want to make sure that the history that's being taught is absolutely Lumbee history. Those are my questions.
The response to the first thing that you pointed out, Ms. Moore, is a section B there where it says, talks about self-identification as a Lumbee prior to enrollment. The discussion was with the administration that, I'll get a clarification if I'm wrong on this, but persons, when they come in to enroll, as they complete the application, on the application, they should identify that they're Indian on the application. If they identify as some other race, then there's a problem. And that's why we added that component in there. If they identify themselves as another race, then that's going to be kicked to administrative court so they can decide how to handle that application.
Correct me if I'm coming for enrollment as an Indian. I surely can't say that I'm anything else. It depends on what's on other documentation rather than just their word.
If I may, Speaker, Ms. Moore, what we addressed with the committee at the meeting was, what the enrollment office is finding is that on our membership application, there are boxes where you identify what you self-identify as, and it lists American Indian, it gives you the opportunity to check more than one box, and lists other racial classifications, and we do have quite a few people who, when they come in and submit these applications for enrollment, they do not check American Indian. They do not identify as American Indian. Without anything, our enrollment office was not able to kick those applications out because they meet otherwise, there was nothing about that in the ordinance. There was nothing about that in the requirements. But you would be surprised at the number of people we have who, when they come in to fill out their enrollment application, they do not identify to the enrollment office that they identify as American Indian.
Made mention about the redundancy of it's on that item 7 there.
I'll respond to that, but I don't see that. I think it's just spelling it out, and then it's spelling out historical present day, then it's defining the characteristics for historical contact, what would have to take place, and then present day contact, what would have to take place if you didn't meet the historical contact requirement. I don't see that. If you could point out further.
I'll point it out. Okay, when you say historical contact and then you put a colon, that infers that you're going to define something at that point or some explanation is coming afterwards. Members seeking to prove contact through historical contact shall provide proof of the following, but you're repeating the fact that it's historical contact. I'm just saying it's redundant in the way that it's stated. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it except for it is redundant.
Any other?
I just want to say I'm concerned about your statement that the community has had an opportunity to provide comments and input. You talked about the community forums that are held in each of the districts. Well, none of that was brought back to the council to read what community members said. And then I believe at the powwow, there was a table that was to be set up where people from the community could come and give input. Well, we've not seen any comments from that. So I'm not sure that your statement that we've done a good assessment of what the community thinks of this ordinance has been captured. And I've heard a lot from the community of dissatisfaction. So I'm not so sure that we've done a very good job of getting a good number of people to comment and to share those comments back to the full council. So that's a big concern that I have.
Ms. Lowry, I'd like to respond to the comment. We did have a scheduled Constitution Ordinance meeting the Tuesday after the powwow, and that's when we saw the feedback from persons that came by the table. There were 27, I think you and some other council members were at some training that week, but we did receive about 27 individual feedback from different persons that came by the table and looked at the ordinance. So they did respond, and we talked about that, and we did make some changes based on their suggestions. We did consider their suggestions.
Well, it would have been good to share that with all the council, because there's times that folks can't be at committee meetings. So I don't excuse myself for not being at that meeting, but I think this is an issue that is a full council issue. And so I think there could have been better ways of sharing the feedback so that everybody could have read that and take that into consideration. And I'm not sure that the attendance at some of the community meetings warranted enough to say that you got significant input from the communities. I mean, I was not at the community meetings, but there were at least two that I heard had very small attendance. So that's just a concern that I have. If you feel like that we have got enough feedback from our 35 enrolled members to make a decision, that's just a concern.
I have a comment. And that by removing the contact that we currently have, by removing contact, so a person can have never been in the community ever, come and sit in on class and get a travel card. Is that right?
So can I respond? So again, we're going back to the base roles, membership, section 1. We're going back to the membership of the Lumbee tribe shall consist of the following. And they have to be on this biological descendants of those persons enumerated as ending on these section 1 through 13 there, or numbers 1 through 13. Okay? So that's the first requirement. Then, if they are, then they have to meet that historical or present-day contact. So yes, you are correct. If they're 18, or over, in that page 6, D, all applicants for new enrollment over the age of 18 shall attend a Lumbee historical cultural class offered by the Lumbee tribe. So yes, they would have to attend that class, and if they attend the class and complete the class, then they're eligible based on those sections that I mentioned. And that hasn't changed, except for instead of coming in and taking the test, you're coming in and taking the class.
Any others? Mr. Speaker? Mr. Hunt?
I'll agree. I think we really should have opened the rolls last year, and there was definite attempts to do so, but unfortunately, we were not able to come to agreements. And I think this is way past due. One of the things that concerns me tonight, page 5, all applicants for new enrollment over the age of 18 shall attend history cultural class, similar to what Ms. Sharon is talking about. My question is this something that people from out of town has got to come here to the Turtle and sit in classes? Do this online? And what is the makeup of the classes? Who's teaching the classes? And they have a certificate from the university or somewhere in Lumbee history? So what's being taught? How accessible is it to these 18-year-olds who may come back to every powwow and every July the 4th celebration with their parents who are tribal toting, card holding members, but they've just never did it before. So now, especially if they're out of town or even if they live within the town of Pembroke, how accessible is this cultural class to these people?
I would, Mr. Speaker, just like to make a couple of comments, and I'll touch on some of that. I think one of the things that we want to keep in mind is that as we looked at closing the rolls, We closed those rolls after listening to the membership tell us that there was problems with the knowledge test. We listened to the enrollment office explain the problems with the knowledge test. We listened to the administrative court. We had meetings with the administrative court where they expressed the backlog due to the knowledge test. We still have membership based on biological descendancy. The difference is now, instead of taking a knowledge test, which is extremely subjective, we all know that, depending on where you live, there's a big difference in community leaders in Gibson and community leaders in Saddle Tree and community leaders in Orem. But we've got something now in place that is going to give folks, we're talking about 30 minutes, an hour for a class. We drive an hour and a half to get to Myrtle Beach, and I don't think any of us would have a problem with it. That's just me. But if somebody's a biological descendant, eligible to be a Lumbee, they come here for a card, they got to come for the present day contact component. Got to come if it's not historical. So once you get here, we give them information about what it means to be Lumbee, which is a good thing. And we can discuss what that policy is. I'm sure administration will be open to that and work with them on getting experts. But I think the main thing we need to look at is we've gotten rid of that knowledge hurdle, and we've created an ordinance that is inclusive on our people, not burdensome to our court system.
Question? Part of my question, though, was on content and access to every Thursday night from 9 to 10, school days, people working that are 18 and out of town. I've got some friends coming in, the daughter, or granddaughter, card-carrying people from Virginia who retired from the Navy. Their granddaughter's card needs updating. Well, she's playing in a soccer match in Raleigh, and if she did not have that card already and was just updating hers but wanting to be enrolled, even though these people come back, from Virginia, how is she going to take a cultural class?
I think, maybe I know a speaker, moderator's not supposed to speak, but I think on that, and I understand where you're coming from, Mr. Hunt and the others, but if I want my card bad enough, and like you said, it's in the process of getting this class worked out, we'll post the dates and show that. Then if someone wants to come, they can go on our website and say, okay, this is the dates that they've got the class. And I understand, it may be sometimes we got to do it on a Saturday because people do work. They can't come here but just on the weekend. Because if you want anything else, you make an appointment to go get your driver's license, you make an appointment to go see a doctor or whatever. So I think giving them the time, and as Mr. Eddings had stated, that giving input on this, that, things that we might want to see on this historical, that's being taught, getting the information from some of those that teach Indian education from the university and combining that and making it to where we can take and use
Is
it.
it going to be online, or is it even going to be taught? And what's the subject matter? I mean, how much history or Lumbee history are we looking at? Who?
If I could address. Yes, sir. On that, I don't know that that's content that you want to put into the specific ordinance. That's getting more into policy. But I know that we've got an administration that's going to work with our membership to try to develop a plan that'll work for folks. If we look at a year and a half ago when the rolls closed, in the example you mentioned, that individual couldn't enroll because you still had to come. That's what you've got to do, the present day contact. So this isn't a question about the class. They still have to come to the administrative office, to the building, to show contact. I think that's what we've got to make sure folks understand. You want to make it as easy as possible, but at the same time, there has to be some sort of contact, historical or present day, and it's up to that individual to prove that.
Chair would recognize Mr. Cooper.
If a person lives in Detroit, Baltimore, Virginia, wherever, and they do come home, but their cards run out in the middle of the year, they need to update. There can be a tutorial or a lecture, developed video, put online with a timed test, so they wouldn't have time to look up the answers to so they can go ahead and take that test and mail it in. So when they did get here, all they have to do is get their card. Any way a policy could be developed, but it's possible. It's not like they have to go to a scheduled weekly culture class. It could be just history, but it is Lumbee.
Mr. Speaker, Mr. Reginald, on that application, where it's got, I hate to say race, but how many races is there listed? It's got Hispanical and stuff on there too? Danielle?
Ms. Danielle.
It does, and then it has a part where it says where people can fill in if it's
Okay,
something else.
if somebody
or
would come
more
in
than
here
one.
and say, I'm Mexican, as long as they go to class and they get that certificate, that means they can get a
No,
card?
they would need to identify as Lumbee under the proposed ordinance.
So how about if they don't put no race? You know when they come
We
out,
would not accept the application.
you know when they come out here and that's what they're coming for? If that's their race or not, they're coming.
If an application is not completed in its entirety, the staff does not accept application that's not completed, and that is a box on the application.
Dr. Reggie?
I'd like to respond. We did have a lot of the same discussion at the last committee meeting, but I do want to say that the chairman did address a lot of those concerns and is aware of those same concerns. So I'm thinking that they are going to make their policies to be flexible with persons. I did want to address Mr. Beanie's comment in section page 5, at the top of page 5 in number 3, and I forgot to mention this. It says members serving in active military. We did add members serving in active, retired, or honorably discharged military that live outside the tribal territory may update their membership by completing a recertification form. So they won't have to come in that case that you were mentioning, Mr. Hunt. And then also the spouse and the children of that same person in number 4 there can do the same thing. So we did address those persons that are in military, retired military, or honorably discharged, because that was a concern that was brought to the committee.
Stan?
Would you speak to the DNA testing? It doesn't say what the cost is, but I know it's significant for some folks. And it says here that the person who's asking for enrollment bears the cost. So does that mean, let's say there's a family of 5, would the head of the household bear that cost, and then the rest of the family automatically part of that family tree, or does everybody in that family tree pay that DNA cost? And I think it's what, about $50 or something?
I can speak to that, Councilman Lowry. What we do is the DNA testing is just to prove lineal descent. It does not go to anybody's DNA markers or any of the 23andMe and any of that stuff, because our Constitution requires a biological relation to someone who appears on the base roll. So if someone has been adopted or someone does not, their parent is not listed on their birth certificate, we would do a DNA test to prove relation to someone else who is already on the roll. So it's generally only one test. It's not everybody in the family, because what you'll find is maybe the grandparent doesn't have the mother or the father listed on the birth certificate, so they'll take a DNA test with a cousin or a relative to show that there's that biological relation, so that you can connect to someone who appears on the rolls, and then everybody else has a birth certificate with that person listed.
Danielle, what's the cost?
Yeah.
I don't want to I believe it's between $50 and $60, but it's not more than that.
And to Mr. Oxendine, as you stated about the attendance at your meeting, we specifically noted that your meeting date was going to occur when we were going to be out of town. And, you know, we requested that we could do it later. But, like I said, we were on tribal business and we could not attend, so it wasn't, and as much as anybody, I want these rolls opened. I want people to be able to have the opportunity to enroll. My grandson's not even enrolled, so I want them open as well. But I want to do it right, and I don't want to do it haphazardly just because we want to get something on the record.
Sir.
We did schedule that meeting right after the powwow because of our 7-day window with this ordinance having to come to full council. We need to schedule, go ahead and schedule that meeting while you're away, and we were aware that you were away on training. And it is, we're trying to work with the administration because the request has been to, let's get the rolls back open, because if we don't do it tonight, and we don't pass it tonight, then all the folks that are coming in for 4th of July, which is our biggest time of the year, are unable to, would be unable to receive their tribal enrollment cards if they wanted to enroll. Now, they can renew, but these are for new enrollments. They would not be able to receive a tribal enrollment card. And we're trying to, nothing is ever perfect. We would continue to look at this. If we come up with issues, we can continue to develop this further out, but I think it's a good working document that the council and the administration both agree that can work for us at the present.
Mr. Reginald, I understand we have a lot of people that's out of town. And, some of the people do know our history. They might not tell you everything, but I think, go ahead and open the enrollments back like it was on the old standards. Let's take this back to the committee, since we don't know what the changes was. But I think we got a lot of people that could still get their cards out there, even if they have to take the test.
All right, you have a motion on the floor. Coming out of committee, it requires no second. We're going to do a roll call vote.
Reading from the ordinance and act to provide for tribal enrollment ordinance, amendment number 2. Therefore, be enacted by the Tribal Council of the Lumbee Tribe of North Carolina, this ordinance shall be cited as an act to provide tribal enrollment. CLLO 2010-01-2101, amended May 16th, 2019.
Carvicus Barfield. Sharon Hunt.
I see a lot of amendments coming, but I'm going to say yes.
James B. Hunt. Ted Woodell.
No.
Wendy Moore. No. Larry Chavous.
Yes.
Douglas Locklear. Reginald Oxendine.
Yes.
Jan Lowry.
No.
Alvin Mercer.
No.
Corbin Eddings.
Yes.
Dewey McNeil.
Yes.
Marsha Locklear.
Yes.
Frank Cooper.
Yes.
Annie Taylor.
No.
Ricky Burnett.
Yes.
Terry Hunt.
Yes.
We have Carveckus Barfield. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 yes. 7 no. The motion carries.
Motion carries. Thank you.
No, don't want to see it. No, don't see it.
This time I'll call this, our calendar
Mr. Speaker.
settings.
Yes, sir, I would like to schedule an Economic Development Committee meeting on June 4th at 6:30, followed by federal recognition at 7:30.
Mr. Speaker,
I'm sorry, I would like to schedule that, but I do need to check with administration just to make sure that that would be a suitable time would be. June 4th, 6:30 for Economic Development.
Mr. Frank?
I do education at 8:30. June the 4th.
Six 6:30 for ethics. 11th of June, ethics, 6:30.
Speaker. I'd like to schedule Constitution and Ordinance on the 11th at 7:30.
7:30, Constitution ordinance on the 11th.
Mr. Speaker, housing on the
30. Housing at 8:30 on the 11th. Any others? Finance? On the 4th, finance. Have economic, 6:30, federal recognition, 7:30, education, 8:30, finance at 9:30 on the 4th. And again, let me say on these committee meetings, if they start at 6:30, they may go 10 minutes, 15 minutes. As soon as it's over, they'll go right into the next committee meeting. So even though it may say 8:30, Mr. Frank might get started at 7:30. We don't know, so just wanted to stress that to everyone. Got all those. Anything else? Mr. Frank?
Mr. Speaker, scholarship committee will meet Monday and Tuesday if we need to at 6 o'clock. And I have reached Joanne Chavis, Ann Hagens, Rodney Jackson, Betty Locklear, and Lawrence Locklear. I left a message with Miss Vanessa Hunt, and she just called, and obviously I couldn't answer. And Miss Peggy Oxendine said she couldn't participate.
Now, what Monday was that, Mr.?
Coming Monday.
This coming Monday?
Yes, sir. We should know something by Wednesday or Thursday.
You said 6 o'clock?
Yes, sir.
Okay, 6 o'clock. Thank you, sir. Anything else, Ms. Jan?
I was wondering if I could get an update. I know that there is a burning issue that's happening right now that I thought was taken care of a long time ago, and that is our students able to wear American Indian feathers, beads, whatever they want to during graduation. And I know that Scotland County is having an issue there. Miss Wendy, did you attend that meeting the other night, and do you know what came out of that?
I wasn't able to get in, but I have petitioned, Mr. Ricky,
Uh-huh,
to do an intertribal,
right, yeah. I
an
think that,
intertribal resolution through the Commission of Indian Affairs.
yes.
Because what we need to do is support the resolution that the NCAI has
Right.
already that states that no Native child should be precluded from expressing their religious beliefs or
Right.
cultural beliefs. And if we support the NCAI,
Mm.
we need to put this issue to rest
Yes,
permanently, because every year at graduation, you can wear a hijab, but you can't wear a feather.
right.
And it's not the feather that's the issue, it's the cultural implications.
Thank you for following up on that.
Mr. Ricky, in Hope County, probably took 4 or 5 years to get our superintendent to allow our students to wear their feather, and it wasn't official, but his statement was if it's going to help them graduate, let them wear their feathers. This year is the first year that all students are able to decorate, as the term they use, their caps.
Speaker, one more announcement. We're having a mini powwow Saturday, 12 to 4 at Hamlet's Fairgrounds in Hamlet, North Carolina.
Hamlet,
Hamlet. That's right there at the city lake. That's the Hamlet Fairgrounds.
2 to 4?
12 to 4.
Oh, 12 to 4, I'm sorry, 12 to 4. Right. Anything else that needs to come before this council?
Mr. Speaker, before we adjourn, I'd just like to, and I hope I'm not out of protocol, but one of the things I want to say on behalf of my wife, Rita, as everybody knows, she's really been sick. I want to appreciate the prayers that everybody has sent, the tribal council, the administration, and all the Lumbee people that has sent prayers for her. I'm telling you, God has moved. And I just wanted to appreciate and thank each and every one of you for that.
Mr. Speaker, I'll make a motion we adjourn.
Have a motion to adjourn, need a second?
Second.
All in favor, stand. I'm going to ask Mr. Doug, if he would, to dismiss us in a word of prayer.
For meeting. Father God, once again about your people. Lord, as we open our roads back up here, Lord,